AFR Talk.
Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Thank you, Linda, on the Facebook page. I wrote Monday, comment on live show, put the date July 31st. The good news is I got the year right, okay? Got a lot of things going on. Burning midnight oil. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Okay, lots to get to. Let's get right back into it. Before the break, we set up the lack of trust that was taking place, and the answers that are coming from the administration just don't add up. Now, we have this scandal environment, and what has entered into that scandal environment is a story on the NSA and how Edward Snowden had access to the information that would put our security in jeopardy. And this has been accompanied by Snowden making allegations, as well as Glenn Greenwald, the reporter who broke the story on Snowden, who is currently in the former Soviet Union, Russia, as we know it. Yes, pardon me. Now, this has opened up a debate on the National Security Agency and the collection of third-party data, which, incidentally, is not allowed to be accessed without a court order. That's the thing. They're not reading your emails. They're not listening to your phone conversations. If you're a foreign national and in the prison program, you are, but you're not entitled to constitutional protections. That all said, concerns about privacy, especially in light of what we've been seeing, and that's what has happened. We have the conflation of these these scandals, and one has a lot of concerns, yes, but just allegations. The other concerns the IRS and the misuse of it. On the line with us right now, the National Security Advisor for the Clarion Project, clarionproject.org, Ryan Morrow. Ryan, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Great. Great piece, by the way, on the divide and the breakdown politically of the divide between Chris Christie and Rand Paul and what's happening in the Republican Party. Tell me, there are two sides in this. And before I play the clip of Rand Paul mischaracterizing the Chris Christie, I guess it would be the Chris Christie, Marco Rubio side of things when it comes to national security. There's a philosophical difference that we have between the two. Could you explain it?
Sure. Well, libertarians believe that one of the, if not the primary driving force of terrorism and anti-American sentiment is our involvement overseas. And therefore, the solution to radical Islam is to just get out and not to be engaged in that debate at all and just let them sort it out among themselves. And it makes a lot of sense logically when you say it, but when it doesn't play out that way on the ground. And in terms of domestic national security, libertarians are more in favor of limited government when it comes to NSA wiretapping and drone use and things like that, whereas Christie and Peter King take a more, I would say, actually sophisticated approach towards those programs.
And with that, we will go, I think we would go with King here, King and Christie for the purposes. I'll leave out Rubio right now because Rubio is actually with Cruz and Paul on some other issues. Here's a clip from Rand Paul. It's part 2 of a clip that he was responding to Chris Christie with the other day. And they're going back and forth trading barbs. And, well, roll it.
That I want to grow the party bigger. And so I don't think the Bill of Rights is esoteric. I don't think the Fourth Amendment is esoteric. And I think the idea that we should have a right to privacy is not esoteric to a lot of people in our country. Ask any people who have cell phones whether they want the government to willy-nilly be going through all of their records without a warrant. I think most Americans would say, hey, I'm okay with spying on terrorists, but I'm not so excited about him spying on Americans. So I think he's on the wrong side of history here, and I think they're getting desperate because actually our movement within the Republican Party is growing, and the old stale, moss-covered, let's go bomb everybody into oblivion, that kind of attitude in the Republican Party, I think, is actually shrinking.
And we would play the clip, but I want to go to you, Ryan. Bottom line, there's been mischaracterizations on both sides. Chris Christie saying, I'd like Rand Paul to look the 9/11 widows in the eye with some of the statements he's made. He characterized the arguments as esoteric and very politically sound response. I mean, nails. But I happen to disagree with Rand Paul on substance when it comes to those charges. Your thought on Rand Paul's statement and characterization of those who desire to fight proactively the war against Islamic fascism?
Well, I think fundamentally Rand Paul seems to buy into some of the hype that surrounds the media coverage of the NSA so-called scandal. I mean, I remember his first reaction. He was saying, this is the greatest trampling on the Constitution ever, or something along the lines of that. I mean, he just went way overboard. And considering he's normally substantive, I was very surprised and very disappointed by that. As for Christie, I just don't like it when people start using the victims of 9/11 in order to score political points like that, saying, oh, well, come talk to the 9/11 widows and then ask about that program, because it implies that Rand Paul is somehow unable to relate to those people and sympathize with their pain.
And outstanding point. And that's a problem, because we see both sides kind of playing the game, trying to win the debate, but are they actually having an intellectually honest debate? And I don't, when you go in sound bites, I think Rand Paul, really smart and a big-time contender, without a doubt. And there are parts of what he does I really like. When it comes to this issue, I disagree with him. When it comes to foreign aid, I disagree with him. And I don't agree with his characterization of things, but it's very effective. Do you think that, is that a fair statement to say that they're both playing games, and rather than going to a real substantive debate about the NSA program in particular? Ryan?
Without a doubt, they're playing the soundbite game, and Rand Paul, I really do think, represents the direction that the Republican Party is going in. And both Christie and Rand Paul are politically just very, very good, very intelligent at what they do. It's they're much slicker at it than the previous group of candidates.
Absolutely. So now I ask you nothing but truth. What is the decision that we're making here? You talked about it a few moments ago with the NSA program, about the substance of it. But explain, if you would, because you're the genius, explain how the NSA program does or does not violate or the claims of listening to phone calls and emails and opening those. Explain why you're okay with that.
It's a much simpler program than has been characterized in the media. Basically, this is how it works. The NSA has access to all of the phone records, not the content of conversations, but records of what number called what number, for how long they talked, and what date it occurred. And the reason they have that is because if you capture the cell phone of an al-Qaeda operative overseas or a spy or whatever, you want to see which Americans were calling him. That's perfectly reasonable. And so you then put that phone number of the al-Qaeda operative into the database, see who called them, and then from that point you can go forward and get a warrant and wiretap one of those people if sufficient evidence exists. And this is no different than when the cops build probable cause when they subpoena a phone company in a criminal investigation.
So they are not reading our emails?
No.
Okay. Are they listening to our phone calls?
Nope.
So why is it that we hear Snowden and Greenwald and others make claims, you don't even know the half of it? What's going on here? Is that just, I mean, again, I don't understand. I understand where you're coming from. I actually agree with you. But bottom line, answer that question, because they're stirring things up, and political calculating candidates for 2016 are running with it.
Yeah, and it's really sad to see how the media is running with this. Basically, everything that Snowden says is a headline now. And he even made the narcissistic, outrageous comment. They said, look, if I wanted to tap into President Obama's emails, I could have. No, you couldn't have. What are you talking about? That's like, I just can't believe anyone looks at statements like that and says, oh, this is a credible source. He may provide some accurate information, but in terms of characterizing that information, he is not a credible source. And I would say this, Rand Paul, I think the right decision that he could have made is to really walk the middle line here. We've been having this discussion about should we have this program or not have it, and everyone's picking one side. Why don't we have a discussion about how to improve it? If you have almost half of Americans uncomfortable with it, let's have a conversation about how to have more safeguards and make the program better.
I think that's a great political response. My non-political response would be the program's working. All we've heard are allegations, and if it's working, I think it just needs to be explained, and the people who are not telling the truth about it or exaggerating and making these claims need to be held to account in the sense of, hey, you make these statements, back them up. But I understand where you're coming from in the sense that, hey, we need to take a look at it because I said it last night, Ryan, and it's a very good point. But the more I look at this, I say, wait a second, there's no there.
There isn't. And by the way, only 22 NSA analysts, actually 2 of them are their managers, so only 20 NSA analysts have the authority to put a phone number into this database. So they don't even have the staff to go through your personal records if they wanted to.
I have a great idea because I want to get the other side of the issue, and we've heard it a couple times on this program. But Friday, if you can, at in the first hour of the program, if we could schedule a debate with someone who obviously has a different take on this, would you be up for it?
Yes, I have to check my schedule for Friday, but I would definitely be inclined to do that. Hopefully you can get someone from the Council on American Islamic Relations.
I have tried that. I've gotten nice responses, peace, and then directed me to somebody else. But I appreciate that, and I'm working on it. And that's the great thing about you, Ryan, is you're willing to get into the arena, discuss these issues, and bring them out. And I will say that for people who, not the Council of American Islamic Relations, but for many who may feel different about the NSA program too. But you in particular have really made that stand, and you've taken that stand, and it's good because it brings truth and accountability. So bottom line, you're coming back on the show this week. We'll find a time to book, but we've got a lot more to discuss with you, and we're out of time for this one. We appreciate you, Ryan.
Right, thank you,
bud. Take care. Ryan Morrow, ClarionProject.org. I think we needed to have that discussion, but we will set up that back and forth because I want you all to have both sides, as always. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. On the flip side, we're going to take a look at, this is going to be nails on a chalkboard, President Obama's Bush League statements. Didn't they write a book called The Amateur? Well, you'll find out why I'm referencing that. Stay tuned. AFR Talk.